Hey everybody, welcome to TIW Podcast. I'm Eric, and today I watched WWE Monday Night Raw, episode 1347. So my throat is kind of starting to feel scratchy. I don't want to get sick just from talking too much, because I recorded a lot yesterday. So I'm going to make this episode pretty quick to avoid aggravating it more. We open up with Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. They're talking up Drew McIntyre, and Drew comes out, and then Seth attacks him with a chair. Hits him like 10 times in a row, just right in the back with that chair. The chair is just a mangled mess. Then we had Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush versus Finn Balor and his mystery opponent, Braun Strowman. A notable moment from this match was when Leo hit Braun with a splash and tried to go for the pin, but then Braun kicked out and launched Leo like all the way across the ring. That was pretty great. So Braun pinned Leo after just demolishing him, and Bobby Lashley walked away reluctantly. So Bobby, not a very good friend, not standing by the side of he's not really a friend, is he? He's like he's using him. He's using him for his assets, for what he offers to help keep his Intercontinental Championship. Backstage, we see that Ronda has arrived late. She has arrived with her husband, who would be important later on. Then we had Alexa Bliss hosting a Moment of Bliss with Elias. Elias has announced that he will be the musical headliner of WrestleMania. But Heavy Machinery and the Conga Line interrupt, and Elias, who's flabbergasted, and Alexa, who's upset that they came out too early. She says, why we rehearsed this so many times? Jose was dressed as a hamburger, and he attacks Elias from behind. We get Elias versus Jose, and Elias wins that match. Heavy Machinery did not have a match, and they didn't stick around with the rest of the Conga Line, so I don't know what they went off to do during the actual match. Anyway, then we had Kurt Angle versus Chad Gable. This follows the announcement that Kurt Angle will face Baron Corbin as his final opponent at WrestleMania. So, okay. All right, if that's what he wants, good for him, I suppose. Kurt won this match against Chad Gable. Kurt versus Gable would have been the best final match, the final actual match. But maybe it'll be an Undertaker type of thing where Roman retired the Undertaker, but then there's still some more matches after that. That's probably more likely the case, but I guess we'll see what happens. Or if it changes before then, I think this match that they had would have been a lot better, I think, than what Baron Corbin versus Kurt will end up being. And now that was great, but it's still cool to see two Olympic wrestlers go against each other in a professional wrestling ring. So yeah. Sasha and Bayley, they address the Iconics, and they say they'll be there on SmackDown Live tomorrow night. So that's finally, that's good to hear. Natalya and Beth Phoenix come out, and then they say, Beth says that Nia and Tamina awoke the dragon, and so they challenge Sasha and Bayley at WrestleMania. And they end up brawling because Natalya is rude, and then we get a match, Sasha versus Natalya, which is interrupted by Nia Jax and Tamina, who attacks outside of the ring. She's wearing a Tamina sweatshirt. And I think she looks pretty good in that sweatshirt, as opposed to her. I mean, I like her ring gear a little. I always think that I said rain gear, and then I think I said reindeer. Ring gear. I like Tamina's a little bit more than I like Nia's in general, but I like how Tamina looks just in her Tamina sweatshirt. She looks pretty good in that. But anyway, they attacked, so this whole thing continues. It will be a triple threat. Will we get somebody from SmackDown in there also? Or will we also get somebody from NXT? Well, two of the people who I would think would be part of that match in a multi-tag team match, they're in the Women's Championship match now. Which, did I talk about that they made that? I think I did in the NXT episode. That's going to be a fatal 4-way at that show, the Takeover New York. So yeah, the Sky Pirates, it would have been really cool to see them in the WrestleMania match, women's tag team championship match. Where's that crackling sound coming from? I think it was the wires. It's all the wires. It's all in the wires. Yeah, that fatal 4-way should be really good. Should be really, really good. Then we had Ricochet versus Jinder Mahal. Ricochet won that match. He had this excellent maneuver to the outside, hitting Jinder and the Singh brothers. I was waiting the whole match. What is he going to do to the Singh brothers? That's the highlight of any Jinder Mahal match these days. Yeah. Then we had Ronda Rousey versus Dana Brooke, which ended in about 20 seconds. Ronda could have ended it much quicker than that, but she was kind of toying with Dana in a way, and just wanted to insult her more than just defeat her. She holds on to that armbar for a long, long time. Dana just shrieking out in pain. I wrote down screams of agony, but then they actually said that right after that. So, I guess I'm getting brainwashed by all the commentary style that I use the same words as they do. But, yeah, it was interesting. But afterwards, security comes out, tries to, discipline, take care of, because it was teased earlier that there's more security in place so that Ronda doesn't pull something unprofessional. But she does anyway. She attacks him, and so does Travis Brown, her husband. He smacks one of the security guards in the face, and she escapes out through the crowd with her husband. Then we had Baron Corbin versus Apollo Crews. Apollo won via roll-up, so it's pretty obvious in this match, Kurt Angle versus Corbin. Kurt Angle's going to win because Kurt Angle defeated Apollo Crews last week. Right before this, we also had a nice moment with the Revival, that Corbin saying well, you guys like me, right? Hell no. So that's pretty great. We had a Batista interview conducted by Michael Cole via satellite. Batista insists that Triple H has us all fooled, that he's tricked us all into thinking he's such a great guy, but his predictions are that one day Vince will wise up and fire him, and that at WrestleMania, Batista will end Triple H's in-ring career. Interview over. So that was kind of fun. It was a kind of a fun interview. Then we have the announcement backstage. Braun announces his entry into the Battle Royal. Alexa, however, feels like she needs to... Well, there's the whole thing going on with the guys from SNL Weekend Update. And Alexa says, hey, let me try to work this out. I'm the host. It's kind of my job to keep the peace and all that. So let's have a peace talk. And so Braun is giving her 1 week to get that sorted out. So I'm assuming we'll see if that works out or not next week. Drew McIntyre, before his match against Seth Rollins in the main event, he challenges Roman at WrestleMania, but begs Roman. He says, I'm asking you to say no for the sake of your family. It's kind of the same Samoa Joe and AJ Styles thing from last year, with his own twist on it. But yeah, he has Roman's number, and he's gonna punch that ticket at. I'm too many metaphors. He challenges Roman, so I assume next week we'll find out what Roman's response is. So we had Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins, another brutal match. This was not a Falls Count Anywhere match, however. No, there were disqualifications possible. There was not a disqualification, We had Drew McIntyre win after hitting the Claymore, but he was only able to hit that Claymore because he had time to recover, because Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman came out just to stand at the top of the ramp and get Seth to look at them for a few seconds. And Drew got the jump and won the match. Seth was just about to win. He was all set up to do the stomp and everything. But then the pterodactyl noise, it's not that like metallic noise, the Brock Lesnar music hit. He's ready to, and then he comes out and distracts Seth. All the people getting distracted by people coming out. Like, don't just stand there and stare. Silly. Keep on fighting the person until like the person actually comes out. Like, glance over every now and then, but don't just stand there staring at them. Like, focus on getting your win. So yeah, that's it. I didn't really watch anything else yesterday to talk about. I watched a whole bunch of YouTube researching about paints, mainly like watercoloring techniques, using water brush pens. I ordered some new stuff online because I for all of my custom drawings that I did over this past weekend, I'm totally changing the subject now. I'm done talking about wrestling. So if you're good on the wrestling stuff, then this episode's, don't listen to the rest of this. But if you're interested in art stuff, this past weekend I did commissions, but I did them all with brush pens, ink brush pens, which is nice, except that the color isn't really uniform, all that, and I don't really like the look of it as much as I could like it. Like having a solid fill, or like having nice gradients, really good blending and stuff like that. Even with a blending marker, it doesn't really work the same on with markers as it does if you're working with watercolors. So I got to thinking, well, maybe next time I should figure out a kit that I can take with me, where I can it's easy to travel with. I don't have like big buckets and everything of water and everything that I have to deal with. And I realized, I have these brush pens. I should mess with those and see how those go, because then you don't need a whole thing. You don't need a jar of water to be washing off brushes in. Your brush washes itself. You just have to have, a jar of water to empty into, kind of. Really just need like paper towels and stuff, which is a lot easier to transport, I think, than like jars and things like that. It's not that hard to transport jars and stuff. But yeah, so I was doing a lot of watching a lot of the techniques and stuff that other people are doing. And I have some watercolor pencils. I have some liquid watercolor pigments, but I don't have any like real high quality like watercolor blocks, like dry blocks that you can transport and not worry about if you're flying somewhere having to have those in a quart Ziploc baggie and stuff like that, like you would if with liquid paints. So I was looking at all of that, and I still haven't found like the best technique for doing what I want to do with those. I think maybe it might be beneficial to wet the paper a lot first, not a lot, but a little bit. That might help blending the strokes together a bit more, because it's mostly like the background colors. I really like the background, like a light background, and then the actual drawing in white. So it's a negative space drawing, basically, that you're leaving the paper unpainted. And that's kind of look that I'm trying to go for. I haven't quite nailed that down yet, but I think that could be the look of the Demon Jackal artwork. So go to demonjackal.com to look at some of my designs and stuff on there. I haven't posted any paintings or anything like that. I think I might start posting on there like on the blog with like, oh, here's the newest paintings. Here's a bunch of the commission drawings and stuff like that. And I also want to try to find like a scanner that can transfer directly, that you can scan either on its own onto like an SD card, because I have an SD card reader for my iPad that I could just get stuff, scan stuff, and then get directly on my iPad, upload it, whatever, edit it on there. Because I don't want to bring a laptop around with me, since I will already have my iPad. So if I can avoid that as much as possible, that's my goal. But if there is a scanner, just a scanner, I don't want the whole printer combo thing, because that adds the ink and all of that. I don't need that aspect of it. I'll have all the paint and stuff to do stuff by hand. I want to preserve all that when I'm at a place, and just have a record of all the stuff that I do when I'm making originals for people and stuff. So anyway, that's what I was mostly watching and stuff, was all these watercolor techniques and tips and tricks and all of that. And it's been pretty informative. And I think I'm getting close to nailing it down. So anyway, that's it. Let me know what you thought about this week's episode of Raw by tweeting me at TIW Podcast. Go to TIWpodcast.com for more reviews. If you enjoyed this episode or anything else on the site, please share some links with your friends. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. And I'll be back real soon. We're talking about Kofi Kingston in a gauntlet match on SmackDown Live. My God, that's going to be incredible. I'm sure of it. Now, he is the one that's going for the goal. So what happens if somebody else is eliminated? What happens if he's eliminated and there's still 3 people left in the gauntlet? Do they continue it, and the person who actually wins it gets that match? They didn't really address that. I think it's kind of, I guess it's kind of assumed that if he loses, then it's over. Like there's nothing left in the gauntlet. It's solely determined if he gets something out of this, because his Vince McMahon's weaselly language, he may not exactly get the WWE Championship match for winning this gauntlet. But this is like step 1, or really like step 3 now towards getting that. But anyway, that's up next. Stay tuned. Also, 205 Live, I think we have the final for the number 1 contenders, Tony Nese versus Drew Gulak. I'm excited for that. So stay tuned for all of that on the next episode of TIW Podcast. Thanks for listening. Bye.